Every night, like clockwork, she would lie down, pull the blanket up to her chin, and say it. No intimacy, no explanation, no emotion, just two words delivered like an order. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, asking myself how I had become a stranger inside my own marriage. But that night was different. That night, I didn't just lie there and accept it. That night, I stood up. And when I said it, calm, steady, unmistakable, "Our marriage ends here," she shot upright like a gun had gone off in the room. Her eyes went wide. Her breath caught in her throat. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just said it. And for the first time in a long time, she was the one frozen in place. Not me. Most men would have kept trying, kept hoping, kept asking, "What's wrong? I already did that," for months. At first, it was subtle, less touch, less laughter. Then came the polite excuses, headaches, stress, deadlines, and eventually, even those disappeared. She would just lie down, say her line, and roll over. And me? I became a hollow version of myself. I convinced myself this was just what marriage looked like after a few years. I told myself to be patient, to be understanding, but the truth was simpler and colder. I stopped existing in her world a long time ago. So when I finally said I was done, it wasn't about anger. It was about peace. Cold, clean, final. She blinked, trying to process what she'd just heard. Then, for the first time in years, her face changed. Not controlled, not detached, panicked. She stood up, hands shaking. "I love you. Don't leave me." Too late. Because the man who waited, who hoped, who stayed up at night trying to fix something she never wanted to fix, he had already left. The man standing in front of her now was someone she didn't recognize, someone she thought was safe, tame, predictable. She thought I would stay no matter what. She was wrong. Here's what most people don't understand. Marriages don't end because of yelling or fights. They end because of silence. Cold, empty nights where one person keeps reaching out and the other keeps pulling away. I gave her every chance. But once a man sees the truth, once he knows what it feels like to sleep next to a wall for months, something inside him dies. And what's born in its place is someone you should have never ignored. That night wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the part she never thought she'd see. The part where I don't slam the door, where I don't burn the house down. I simply walk out and never look back. The next morning, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. No clatter of her coffee mug. No passive-aggressive sighs drifting down the hallway. Just silence. I got dressed without rushing, ate breakfast alone. And when I left the house, I didn't glance back, didn't leave a note, didn't check if she needed anything. And she noticed. Of course she did. That afternoon, she sent a message. Just 4 words. "Can we talk tonight?" I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because the version of me who jumped at every chance to fix things was already gone. When I came home that evening, she was waiting, hair done, makeup on, a dress I hadn't seen in years, the one she used to wear back when we still had a pulse, candles lit on the table, a bottle of wine half open, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't ended the marriage the night before. I walked in, nodded once, took off my shoes, and started sorting the mail. She stepped in front of me and touched my arm. Her voice was low, soft. "I missed you today." I looked at her, really looked, not with anger, not with affection, with clarity. Because what she was offering wasn't love, it was strategy. Control, wrapped in perfume and candlelight. I didn't flinch, didn't move. "I'm not doing this," I said. And I walked past her. Not fast, not angry, just done. She didn't follow right away. She stood there, lips parted, completely disarmed. Because she thought she still had time. She thought I'd melt the moment she got close again. But the man who used to sit at the edge of the bed, waiting for her to turn over and touch him, he died quietly in the dark months ago. And now she wasn't looking at someone she could manipulate. She was looking at someone she couldn't reach. The next morning, she tried again. Woke up early, made pancakes, set the table. I grabbed a coffee, said thanks, and walked out the door. No bite, no seat at the table. That was the moment it started sinking in. This wasn't silence anymore. It was detachment. The one thing she never thought I'd learn. She spent months pulling away from me, convinced I'd never do the same. She believed men like me stayed no matter how cold it got, no matter how many nights ended in rejection. She thought she had time until she ran out of it. Now she wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to slow the fall. But I wasn't falling anymore. I was rising, and she had no idea how far above her I already was. By the end of that week, something shifted. Not in me. I had already shifted. In her. She started watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Her eyes lingered longer. Her jaw tightened in a way I hadn't seen before. Not anger, worry. The emptiness she once fed me with every rejection was now feeding on itself. One morning, she came into the kitchen earlier than usual. Normally, she would pass by like I was air. Now she hovered, asked if I needed anything. I said no. She stood there another 10 seconds, waiting for something, anything that would tell her I still cared. I didn't give it to her, not to punish her, but because I had nothing left to give. Later that night, she knocked on the guest room door. I'd started sleeping there 2 nights earlier. No fight, no announcement. Just moved my pillow, took a blanket, closed the door. She asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I told her I had plans. That was new. I used to clear my schedule just to sit in the same room as her, even if all she gave me was silence. Now I was learning what freedom felt like. Quietly. Completely. And she was learning what it felt like to be optional. The next morning, she sent a long message. Said she missed how things used to be. Said it felt like we were losing something. I read it. Didn't reply. Because she wasn't reaching out to me. She was reaching out to the man I used to be, and he wasn't home anymore. At work, I started staying late, not because I had to, but because being away from her felt better than pretending everything was fine. I hit the gym afterward, not for revenge, not to attract anyone else. Just to feel strong again. To feel like something in my life was under my control. People noticed. Co-workers, strangers, even the barista who never remembered my name suddenly smiled a little wider. But none of that compared to the look on her face the night I walked in at 9030. She was on the couch in her robe, TV on, wine glass untouched, waiting. I didn't rush in, didn't ask if she ate, didn't explain where I'd been. I hung up my coat, nodded once, and walked to the guest room, and I felt it. Her eyes burning into my back. Not anger, confusion. Because for the first time, she was chasing someone who had already stopped running. There's a kind of silence that isn't just quiet. It has weight, like fog that settles over everything. You don't hear it, you feel it. That's what our house became. By week 2, she stopped pretending. No more candlelit dinners, no forced smiles, no lingerie she hadn't worn in years. Instead, she hovered in doorways, paused in hallways, waited to be acknowledged. And when she wasn't, she folded inward. I could feel her watching me from the kitchen as I laced my boots. She stood there like a ghost in her own home. I didn't offer comfort, not because I wanted her to hurt, but because I was done rescuing someone who threw the rope away months ago. At night, she stayed up later than usual. Lights on in the bedroom. I could hear the creak of floorboards above me, the restless pacing. Then one night, I heard something else, a muffled sob, soft, pillow deep. She was crying, not the dramatic kind, not the manipulative kind, the kind you make when you think no one is listening. I lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't go upstairs to ask what was wrong. Because I already knew. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the control she thought she'd always have, the safety net she assumed I'd always be. And now I was gone, right there in the house, but emotionally 10,000 miles away. The gravity of her choices was finally pulling back. At work, I was different, sharper, focused. My team noticed, my boss noticed. I was pulled aside and told they were considering me for a lead project I'd wanted for over a year. That night, I got home late. She was in the kitchen, sitting at the table, laptop open, untouched. She looked up like she had something to say. I nodded, walked past, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and left the room. She didn't follow, didn't speak, didn't try. Something in her posture had changed. Like she was finally realizing this wasn't a phase. This wasn't a tantrum. This was the beginning of a life she wouldn't be part of. I started rerouting my paycheck, small steps. Quiet steps, a separate account, new passwords, a new budget. Not to be secretive, to be free. If I was going to rebuild, it wouldn't be on the ruins of a marriage where I was treated like an accessory. It would be from scratch. She could keep the house full of memories, but not the man who made them. It didn't take long for her silence to turn into suspicion. Not love, not concern, control. That was what was unraveling. She'd lost her grip, and when people like her start losing control, they look for someone to blame. It started subtly. Casual questions about my schedule, where I was going, who I was seeing, not directly. Not like a wife curious about her husband's day, more like someone trying to solve a puzzle that suddenly stopped fitting together. She asked if I'd be home for dinner. Probably not. What time would I be back? I'm not sure. The next morning, she lingered in the doorway while I buttoned my shirt, tried to joke, tried to smile, said I looked nice, said she missed us. I didn't respond, not coldly, like someone who had already processed the grief and moved on. Because I had. She was still swimming toward the shore. I'd already built a boat. That night, I came home late again, lights on, hair done. She was trying to recreate the version of herself I once chased. Then she asked the question that told me how deep her panic ran. Is there someone else? I looked at her. No guilt, no denial, just silence. Because the truth was, there wasn't anyone else. No affair, no secret number, no hidden messages. But yes, there was someone else. Me. The version of me I'd abandoned to keep this marriage alive. The man buried under years of emotional starvation. The man who waited by the door hoping to be chosen. He was back now. And he didn't need her. I didn't answer her. She wasn't asking because she cared. She was asking because she was losing. She stood there for a moment, fighting the urge to beg. But even she knew begging only works when the other person is still emotionally invested. I went to bed alone again. This time, I didn't stare at the ceiling asking what I'd done wrong. I slept deeply, unburdened. Because love doesn't leave in a single moment. It fades, it withers. And when it's gone, you don't scream. You don't fight. You just walk away. Already packed, already done. There's a certain calm that comes when you realize you don't owe anyone explanations. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I didn't want to waste another second living inside someone else's illusion. I made coffee. Not 2 cups, just 1. I sat at the table, logged into my accounts, and started untangling a life I no longer wanted to share. This wasn't revenge. It was logistics, strategy, a quiet separation. Financial first, emotional, long finished. I rerouted my salary to a new account, canceled the credit card she never paid but always used, turned off autopay on subscriptions she'd added without asking. It took less than 20 minutes to start undoing years of silent sacrifice. When she came downstairs, still wearing the same robe she always wore, she felt it. Not immediately, but the silence was louder now, colder, permanent. She asked if I had time to talk that evening. I have plans. The next day, the first alert hit. Did something happen with the account? I can't access Hulu. I didn't respond, not to be cruel, but because silence was finally saying what words never could. She tried a softer approach, a note on the fridge, made pasta tonight. Hope you're hungry. I came home late, ate out, didn't touch the food. Didn't acknowledge the note. The next morning, she asked if everything was okay. Everything's fine. She waited for more. That was all she got. Because when someone spends months saying no in every way that matters, eventually, your yes to yourself becomes the only thing that does. I began removing things, not selling, just reclaiming. The bookshelf I built for her office, gone. The wall prints she picked but never hung, packed. Every trace of effort that went unnoticed, systematically erased. She noticed. Of course she did. One night she asked why her login no longer worked on the joint account. I looked at her, calm, steady. Because it's not joint anymore. She opened her mouth to argue. Nothing came out. Not fear. Understanding. She didn't lose me. She gave me away, piece by piece, night after night. I was just finishing what she started. Desperation has a scent, and perfume stops working when it runs out of power. That Friday, she tried something new, not subtle, not soft, calculated. I came home to dim lights, slow music, candles spread across the living room. Dinner I used to love, steak, garlic, mashed potatoes, wine breathing on the counter. She stood in the doorway wearing the black dress, the one she hadn't touched in years. Hair curled, lipstick perfect, like she'd rolled the clock back 5 years. Only this time was gone. I didn't walk in the way I used to, didn't smile, didn't compliment her. I paused at the door, looked around, then turned and walked back out. No words, no explanation. I drove to a quiet diner across town, ordered coffee, sat alone in a booth, not lonely, free. Because I finally understood something most people miss. You don't rebuild connection by staging a moment. You rebuild it with consistency. She was using nostalgia like a leash, trying to pull me back into a version of myself that no longer existed. And the man who once would have dropped everything just to feel wanted, he was gone. When I came home 2 hours later, the candles had burned out. The food was cold. She sat on the couch, heels off, mascara streaked beneath her eyes. She didn't look up, didn't speak. She didn't need to. The moment her seduction failed, she understood. This wasn't about distance anymore. It was disconnection. The next day, she cleaned the entire house. Polished, organized, like she could scrub the tension off the walls. I left my shoes by the door that night. She moved them, lined them up perfectly, searching for control in tiny details, trying to reinsert herself into my world. But I'd already created space where she no longer fit. Later, she left the house for a few hours, no explanation. When she came back, she looked smaller, tired. She sat across from me in the kitchen while I read the news. Then she said, "I don't know who you are anymore." She meant it as a question. I took it as a compliment. Because if she still recognized me, it would mean I hadn't changed. It would mean I was still the man who waited, who begged, who compromised himself into nothing. That man died the night she rolled away and said no intimacy. There's a difference between a phase and a plan. A phase reacts. A plan prepares. By then, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was building. She still thought this was a moment, something I'd cool off from, something that would pass. She couldn't see the scaffolding going up behind the silence. That week, I rented a private mailbox. Separate, no shared key. I updated my contact information with my bank, my employer, even my gym. I ordered a new SIM card, a new number. Not because I wanted to disappear, but because I wanted to make sure that if I did, there would be no breadcrumbs left behind. This wasn't running. This was reclaiming my name, my space, my future. The day the SIM card arrived, she intercepted the package. She wasn't supposed to. It was addressed to me directly, but she brought it in with the rest of the mail. Her fingers tightened around the envelope. She didn't ask what it was, didn't say a word. But I saw it. Recognition. That was the moment it finally landed. This wasn't me being distant. This was me being done. She tried again, smaller gestures this time. Making coffee in the morning, setting out 2 mugs instead of 1. I drank mine in silence. Then I picked up the second mug and poured it out. Not to be petty, but because I didn't want to drink anything made by someone who only remembered I existed once I stopped orbiting around her. She started texting me memories, old photos, trips we took before the bedroom went cold and the silence spread through the rest of the house. I didn't reply. That night, she asked if we could go out somewhere. Just talk. I declined. Not rudely, not bitterly. I told her I had other plans, and I did. Not a date, not a distraction, just me, my time, my freedom. I started journaling again. Not tracking her behavior, tracking mine. Because growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a man sitting in his car for 20 minutes after work, listening to nothing, feeling more peace than he's felt in years. I bought new sheets, new towels, neutral colors, nothing she'd chosen. It's strange how a change in fabric can feel like liberation. She walked past the guest room and noticed the suitcase in the corner, the folded shirts that weren't hers, the scent of new detergent, and that's when I saw it. Fear. Not fear of losing me, fear that she already had, and fear of the truth she couldn't stop anymore. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was preparing to leave. That was what scared her most. Because when a man leaves in anger, there's always a chance he'll come back. But when he leaves in peace, he never does. She still believed she had time, even after everything. Somewhere in her mind, I was still hers, still the quiet, loyal man who would eventually come around. But by the end of that month, I wasn't circling anymore. I was moving with intention. The day I packed my suitcase, she was in the living room scrolling on her phone, the way she always did when she wanted to look unbothered. I didn't slam drawers, didn't make noise. I packed with precision. Shirts, documents, chargers, nothing sentimental. Nothing we bought together, only what belonged to me. She walked past the room, slowed, watched me zip the case. Work trip? She asked. I nodded. Didn't say where, didn't say when I'd be back, because that's when it clicked. This wasn't a goodbye. It was closure she wasn't invited to. When I left the house, I didn't turn off the lights. Didn't leave a note. Just the sound of the door locking behind me. The hotel wasn't fancy, wasn't far, but it felt like another planet. A quiet room, a king-sized bed, no cold shoulder beside me, no tension, just silence, my silence. And that night, I slept like a man who finally stopped apologizing for wanting to be seen. The next morning, she called, then texted, then emailed. Her message was short. I think we should start over, reset, go to therapy. The words I used to beg for. Now they felt like a parachute offered after the crash. She said she was willing to change, said she missed me, said she loved me. Once, that would have shattered me. But the man who stopped chasing validation and started building his own worth didn't need promises. He needed peace. I muted the thread, turned off notifications, went downstairs, ate breakfast alone, and for the first time in years, I didn't check the time. There was no one left to hurry back to. Because when solitude feels safer than a shared bed, tears don't lure you back, only echoes remain. I went back once, not to reconcile, not to explain, just to finish. The house looked exactly the same curtains, same pictures, same furniture I built with my own hands, now collecting dust in rooms that no longer held anything sacred. She wasn't home. I planned it that way, checked her calendar, lunch with a friend, probably telling some version of the story where I just drifted. She never understood. Men don't drift. We disconnect in silence until one day, we're gone, and by the time we leave, we've already grieved. I moved through the house room by room, not nostalgic, not bitter, focused. I gathered the last things I'd left behind, a leather watch, a folder of documents, a photo of my parents she never framed. In the bedroom, I opened the closet, her side untouched, mine almost empty. On the top shelf sat a box. Old cards. I wrote her back when I still believed effort could revive love. I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I placed the box into a bag, not because I wanted the memories, but because I refused to let her keep the parts of me she stopped valuing. Before I left, I stood in the doorway one last time. The couch, the kitchen table where I sat alone too many nights, the hallway she used to walk through like I didn't exist, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just release. She came home an hour later. By then, I was downtown signing the final paperwork. Separate address, separate accounts, a new chapter. She texted, "You were here?" I didn't reply. That night, she called. It rang 4 times, then silence. No voicemail. Because the man she expected to answer doesn't live in that version of her story anymore. I didn't leave her to find someone better. I left because she made me invisible, and then acted surprised when I disappeared. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I didn't announce my exit. I just stopped participating in a love I never felt returned. She'll tell her friends I changed. Then I shut down. But the truth is simple. She said no for so long, she forgot that silence cuts both ways. And when silence became hers, when it echoed in empty rooms, untouched dinners, unanswered texts, that's when she finally understood. This was abandonment. Closure executed with precision. No invitation for return. Because when I left, I took the version of myself she never thought would walk away. And I didn't just disappear. I made sure she'd never find me again.